two young, beautiful girls that came from very loving households and had their whole entire life in front of them go missing almost a decade apart. The remains are found in the woods in incredibly close proximity to each other. And sure, the fact that they both lived in Missouri, the only thing that these two girls had in common was a man by the name of Kylr Yust. This is their heartbreaking story with a whole bunch of players, two handfuls of witnesses, and more twists and turns than the tilt-a-whirl ride on the boardwalk. Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. It is so greatly appreciated. It truly, truly is. Before we get started, let me give you my usual disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next, if you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so because it really helps me out and I really, really appreciate it. So, Kara Elise Kopetsky was born on February 17th, 1990 in Frankfurt, Germany to parents Rhonda and Michael Kopetsky. She had a contagious smile and a carefree attitude. She was fiercely loyal to her family and friends. Her parents would end up divorcing, and her mother would go on to marry a man by the name of Jim Beckford. And they would go on to have a child together, a little boy that they named Thomas. Kara loved music, shopping, and animals. She was your typical teenager. In 2007, Kara was a junior at Belton High School and she had been dating 18-year-old Kylr Yust. Friends could only describe the couple's relationship as toxic, bad, and high-strung. Kara would even go so far as to tell her friends that she was scared of Kyle and she didn't know how to deal with his outbursts. In fact, just 2 weeks before Kara went missing, she confided in her friend Amy that she was intending to break things off with him. When Kara finally did call Yust, she did it from Amy's house. Yust then shows up at Amy's house where Kara agrees to go for a ride with him. When he would end up dropping Kara back off at Amy's, a short time later, she had bruising around her neck and a swollen bottom lip. Then 1 week later, on Saturday, April 28th, 2007, Kara is working her shift at Popeyes when Yust shows up with a gift for her. He asks Kara to spend some time with him after her shift ended, to which she declines, telling him that she already had prior plans. However, after Kara's shift ended, Yust was waiting for her in the parking lot, grabbed her, forced her into his truck, locked the doors, and drove off. Thankfully, he would end up eventually deciding to let a very scared Kara out of the car. Then on Monday, April 30th, 2007, Kara and her mother would show up to the Cass County Circuit Court seeking an order of protection against Yust. In her complaint, Kara says that in December of 2006, Yust held a knife up to Kara's throat and told her that he was going to slit it. In March of 2007, Yust restrained her in his home and refused to let her leave. On April 28th, 2007, he kidnapped her outside of Popeyes at her place of employment. And 1 month prior to this, he choked her. That would be the incident that happened the night that he picked her up from Amy's house, ending the complaint by saying that she felt as though she was in immediate present danger of ABUSA. Yust was served with the protection order from Kara on May 1st, 2007. For unknown reasons, Kara ignored the terms of her own protection order that she filed. We don't victim shame on here, but girl, what the hell were you thinking? May 4th, 2007, Kara asked her mother if she could be allowed to walk to school. Because Kara was a smoker and her parents did not approve of her habit, she would prefer to walk to school in the morning so she could have a cigarette. It is what it is. Kara safely arrived at school that morning, and she was also in contact with Yust that entire morning. At 9:13 a.m., Kara sends Yust a text message. Then at 9:19 a.m., she's seen on the school security camera walking out the doors of the school and never returning. For whatever reason, Kara decided to meet up with Yust that morning, a decision that would prove to be deadly.
Control, and he wanted control over Kara.
Kara called Kylr at 9:13 that morning, and he returned her call at 9:20, 1 minute before she's seen on surveillance video leaving the school. However, Belton police said that Kylr had an alibi and wasn't in that city the day Kara disappeared. Instead, he was reportedly visiting a great aunt at a Kansas City nursing home. Police also said he passed a lie detector.
The cops have said you've been very cooperative.
I have been, because I don't know anything about where she is or about what happened. I wish I did.
Did you threaten to slip up?
No. Didn't.
What happened?
That didn't happen that night. That was before.
Although reminders of Kara's disappearance can be found throughout the community, years would go by with no clues as to what happened to her.
The last phone call Kara made was at 10:25 a.m. and it was to a guy named Kyle Reynolds. Kyle was actually a friend of Yust and was in the same death metal band as him. She asked Kyle if he wanted to hang out, which took Kyle back because this was not something that she would typically do. But because he had a job interview later that morning, he politely declined and they hung up the phone. Okay. Fast forward to somewhere between the hours of 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. Yust shows up at Reynolds' home, and he describes Yust as agitated and showing behaviors that are not typical for him. Meanwhile, back at Kara's home, her family and friends become frantic when they can't get in touch with her. So they file a police report with the Belton Police Department. They made attempts to contact Kara, but they were unsuccessful as well. When police searched Kara's room, they became incredibly worried by what they found. The theory of Kara being a runaway became incredibly slim when they found what she left: clothes, makeup, a carton of cigarettes, and the iPod that she had just gotten for Christmas. Okay. No teenager that was planning on taking off would ever leave items like this behind. I don't give a shit. Especially a carton of cigarettes, because number one, they're not cheap, and Kara was working at Popeyes, so she wasn't rolling in the dough, if you know what I mean. When they searched her locker at school, they found her debit card. But concerns rose when Kara's paycheck was ready for pickup on May 9th, and she never arrived to get it or send someone to pick it up for her.
Police talked with Kara's family that night. She was reported as missing. 1 week after she vanished, 41 Action News was invited inside the family's home.
Her dresser is full.
In Kara's bedroom, none of her clothes were missing. Her iPod and phone charger left on a table.
Something just is not right. I mean, she would not run off. I know she's my daughter, and I know in my heart she would not do that.
Her cell phone and debit card unused.
She's not used or accessed her phone since the day of May 4th. And that's unusual for anybody with a cell phone, let alone a teenage girl.
Leads would die down, and the case of Kara Kopetsky would go ice cold for almost 10 years. So let's talk Kylr Yust real quick. Kylr was born on September 14th, 1988, and his upbringing was anything but rainbows and gumdrops. He began drinking at 9 years old and did the white stuff that goes up your nose for the first time at age 14. His father was a meth addict, and he didn't know his mother until he was in his teens. He was estranged from his parents, and it was actually his grandparents who would end up raising him. He was no stranger to the police either, and in fact, he has quite the rap sheet. He was locked up on drug charges, for stealing tattoo supplies from Lucky Lady Tattoo, where he worked as an apprentice, with items that included tattoo machines, needles, ink, and various other supplies.
Accused of stealing tattoo supplies from Lucky Lady Tattoo on Warnell, where he was an apprentice. This week, prosecutors released this indictment. According to the court papers, Yust appropriated tattoo machines, needles, ink, and various supplies.
2007 for the ABUSC of his then girlfriend, Candace St. Clair, and for animal ABUSC after he unalived her 2 cats. Like, what did the cats do?
This video is of Yust being arrested for animal charges in September. He's accused of stopping 1 kitten and throwing 2 live kittens into a creek while tied inside a bag.
In 2010, when Candace was just 17 years old, she was living with Yust in Kansas City. One night, Yust found Candace packing her bags and planning to put an end to their toxic relationship. Yust gets on top of Candace, puts both of his hands around her throat, and begins telling her that he has unalived ex-girlfriends before out of sheer jealousy, and that he will unalive her before she could let out another scream. Going on to say that every time she would pass out, Yust would punch her in the leg to wake her up, telling her that he wasn't done with her yet.
Then proceeded to get on top of me, to put his hands around my neck, hand over hand, to my trachea. And as soon as I would lose consciousness or come near to losing consciousness, he would turn around and punch my legs to wake me up, saying that he was not finished with me yet.
For me, people that unalive others through strangulation they're some of the worst, because it's incredibly up close and personal, and it takes several minutes to complete, and the entire time you're looking directly into your victim's eyes. Like, that's some cold-hearted shit. You are cold as ice, okay? Elsa. The following morning, Candace says she woke up in the bed. Yust was laying next to her and telling her how much he loved her, and promising her that it will never happen again as long as she's good. Give me a fucking break. Sorry, give me a break. For real. As long as she's good. First of all, it doesn't matter. Nobody deserves that. Nobody ever. Okay? Here's the thing. Nobody will ever do anything so bad that this type of punishment would be deserved. She also began finding Kara's missing posters around the home. And when she questioned Yust about them, he told her that he was collecting them to leave in Kara's parents' yard. Scumbag. Scumbag. Going on to tell her that he remembered dragging her body through the woods and that she was really heavy. But Candace was not the only person that Yust admitted this to. He first confessed to an ex-girlfriend by the name of Caitlin Ferris, who dated Yust between the ages of 16 and 17, telling her that he took Kara to his apartment and that she was never seen again. In 2010, Caitlin, who had moved out of state since then, agreed to meet up with Yust and wear a wire for the police.
Ferris asked Yust what he wanted to write to Kara as they drove to the location. Ferris asked a lot of questions about Kara. In between those questions, Yust kept telling Ferris he wanted to be with her and discussed having sex. When Ferris would not agree to Yust's advances early on in the recording, he started calling himself names, saying he would always be alone.
So, according to court documents, Yust told Caitlin that he Kara and threw her in the middle of the woods, going on to tell her that if he had a choice to take back either cheating on Caitlin or unaliving Kara, he would pick cheating on Caitlin. Yeah, yep. I wouldn't bring back my dead girlfriend who I'm responsible for getting rid of. But I would absolutely take back the fact that I cheated on you, Caitlin. In late 2009, Yust tells friend Nick Yates that he unalived Kara because she didn't love him anymore, telling him that he just snapped and that something bad happened to Kara. In 2012, Yates tells his roommate, Seth Duncan, that he Kara and took her body to the woods.
Nick Yates took the stand to say Yust, who was once his roommate and bandmate, confessed to him that Yust Kara.
At some point, when we had been drinking at a party at his house, we had gone up to Burger King, and he had confessed to me that he Kara.
In 2013, he told friends Aaron Caponetto and Nicholas Kirkbride that if he ever loved someone so much that he would rather see them dead than with somebody else. He then told Aaron that he at Kara and would tell them the location of Kara's body. Wait for this one. If he would work on a music project with him, and at the end, Yust would his brains all over the stage. Yep, we're playing with a full deck there, buddy. Fast forward to September 2016. A then 21-year-old Jessica Runyons was living in Kansas City, Missouri with her then boyfriend of 3.5 years, Jackson Mallet. Jackson was close friends with Kylr, and Jessica would end up meeting and befriending Kylr through Jackson. A few months prior, Jackson suffers a medical condition and he's forced to stay in the hospital for a period of time. After he gets released from the hospital, he notices that Jessica has become incredibly distant all of a sudden, and he begins to question her. He asks Jessica point blank if she's sleeping with Yust, and Jessica admits to him that she has been. The couple decide to work things out, but Jackson cuts Yust out of his life while working on his relationship. Of course he does, obviously. Jessica, on the other hand, continues to talk to Yust via text message, email, and phone calls. Whether or not the boyfriend knew that, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to go with hard, probably not. September 8th, 2016, Jessica's recovering from a ruptured appendix when she decides to hang out with a friend of hers by the name of Alan Alvarado, go to his house, and drink some wine. So Jessica arrives at Alvarado's house with a very intoxicated Yust, who was not happy that Jessica had plans to hang out with Alvarado without him. While there, Yust became unbearable, and Alvarado asked Jessica and Yust to leave his home. The two leave together in Jessica's car, and that's the last time Jessica is seen alive. Yust was living with his grandparents at the time, and the following morning when Grandpa left to drive Yust to work, he noticed Jessica's car sitting in his driveway. He didn't think anything of it. Jessica had a follow-up visit with her doctors that day at 2 o'clock. So her mother shows up to her house to pick her up and take her because, again, she came from a really good family. When Mom gets to Jessica's house, her car is not there, she's not home, and she's not answering phone calls. When her mom calls her boyfriend, he tells Jamie that he hadn't seen her since the night before and that she never arrived home. While all this is going on, Yust asks his half-brother, Jessup Carter, and Jessup's then girlfriend, Crystal Taylor, to meet up with him. Jessup and Crystal drop their kids off with the mom, with Yust's mom, who's Jessup's mom. They drive to Grandpa's house, and the three of them go for a ride around 7:30. They go to Jessup's uncle's house first to get a gas can and use his burn barrel. They drop Crystal off at Grandpa's house, and the brothers leave her there watching TV. When they return 45 minutes later, Crystal describes Jessup as shocked and scared. Then the three leave Grandpa's house again. On their way out, Crystal sees Yust take a shirt that's roll it up and throw it in the neighbor's bushes, but she doesn't question it.
A former Kansas City police officer showed jurors a sweatshirt that was collected from the neighbor's bushes. A DNA analyst said she found both Jessica Runyon's DNA and Yust's DNA from the inside cuffs of a sleeve of the sweatshirt, but could not determine when the DNA was deposited.
They go to the cousin's house to pick up a GUN that he would hand over to Crystal to hold, and then they start driving again. So, during the drive, Yust throws his cell phone out of the window and he tells the other two to take their batteries out of their phones.
Jessup Carter's wife, Crystal Taylor, described what happened on September 9th, 2016, after they picked Yust up from his grandfather's house.
Kylr did ask for us to take the batteries out of our phones. And also mentioned something like, well, I already threw mine out.
Because they're scared, Crystal says she does what she's told. The three arrive at an abandoned trailer that was owned by a family friend of Jessup's really early in the morning. They give him some non-perishable food and they leave him there to go pick up their children.
Property owner's permission, 41 Action News got exclusive access inside the trailer. In a side room, Pop-Tarts and water, also pills. Next to the bed, a cigarette tray. At the end of the bed, a bat in a room that was once a child's. Today, the property owner told us she hasn't been there for a month, but that the former renter told her someone had been breaking the back lock. She says she hasn't heard from Kansas City police and has no idea who Kylr Yust is or why he was found on her property.
While on the drive to drop Yust off at the trailer, a civilian that's driving home at around 1 a.m. notices a large car fire not far from Grandpa's house and calls the police.
Later, her SUV was found torched near 95th and Blue River Road in Kansas City. Her family distraught.
She's loving, caring. I mean, she helped raise her sisters, and we just want her to come home safe.
The car that was ablaze would end up belonging to a missing Jessica Runyon. During the investigation of Jessica's car, police determined that the car fire was started with gasoline and an unknown ignition source. Gasoline and an unknown ignition source. September 11th, 2016, police find and arrest Yust at the trailer he's hiding out in regard to Jessica's missing person case. During the arrest, police noticed that Yust has fingernail scratches, burn marks on his face, and singed hair that were consistent with a flash fire caused by gasoline. Listen, this is you don't need Inspector Gadget for this case, okay? I'm just saying. Meanwhile, back at the investigation into Jessica's burning Chevy Equinox, fire inspectors concluded that the fire was caused by gasoline and an unknown ignition source. Police would also find the shirt that Yust threw into the bushes of a neighbor of Grandpa. DNA testing of the shirt would show that both Jessica and Yust's DNA were present on it. When officers executed a search warrant of Grandpa's home, they found blood in the basement.
Stay here. Kylr Yust slept in this tiny bedroom at his grandfather's house for days before he was arrested in Benton County. This afternoon, police spent more than 2 hours scouring the home for evidence in the disappearance of Jessica Runyon. Details around Runyon's burnt car are sealed. However,
while in custody, Yust has a recorded phone call with his mom. During the phone call, Yust confesses to being responsible for the death of Jessica, then goes on to blame his mother for being the reason why he did it. I can't make this shit up, guys. Can't make this shit up. All those times you didn't show up to visitation was my grandpa's fault. So that's why you killed that girl? That's part of it. Give me a break. That's part of it. That's why you did it. A big, huge part of it. You and Kenny. Yeah. Wow, Kylr. I would say about 50-50. He also went on to tell his mother that he planned on telling people where Jessica was, saying, "I'm not ever going to be out again. You realize that, right?" Then, during a separate phone call, he tells his mother that he acted alone and that his brother and his brother's girlfriend had nothing to do with it. But put a pin in that because it becomes incredibly important later on. So, despite all of these confessions, Jessica's case goes cold, just like Kara's, because no bodies have been found. And if you want a rock solid case, you kind of need a body. I get it. Otherwise, you chance the jury coming back not guilty, and then it's over. It's game over. But all that would change on April 3rd, 2017. A mushroom hunter was walking around a trail in the woods, and he would come across a human skull.
Just walking through there, watching the ground. I was on game trails and such where it was easier walking and just looking on both sides of the trail, just hoping to spot a mushroom.
Did you?
No.
What did you spot?
I found a skull.
He immediately contacts police, who would begin finding even more skeletal remains. On April 5th, 2017, the remains would be linked back to Jessica Runyon's. The following day, April 4th, 2017, while police were searching more of the woods, they'd come across a second set of remains, incredibly close to those of Jessica's. Those remains would prove to belong to Kara Kopetsky. Due to the small amount of remains that were found and how long that they've been decomposing, the medical examiner was not actually able to determine a specific cause of death for the girls. However, she does say that she is not ruling out strangulation. October 5th, 2017, used to be charged with the death of both girls.
What happened to your face? Did you get burned?
What happened to your face?
Did you kill Jessica?
Did you?
Due to COVID and requests from Yust defense team to push trial dates back and psych evaluations and all these things, the date would just continually get pushed back. While all this is going on, Yust's half-brother, Jessup Carter, would end up getting arrested on arson charges for a house fire in Kansas City. When firefighters arrive to this fire, Carter runs over to them screaming, "This is my domain. You can't put this out. This is my domain. I started the fire and you have no authority here." Jessup would end up getting arrested and being held on $25,000 bail. Jessup Carter would also be the star witness for the prosecution against Yust for the deaths of Jessica and Kara. So I'm of the opinion, say what you want about him, but he has somewhat of a conscience because he came clean and he was ready to testify against his brother and do what was right for these families. So, gotta give him that. Telling police that he saw Yust burn Jessica's car, that he was the one who drove Yust to the trailer to hide while he waited for the burns to heal, and that Yust admitted to him that he was responsible for the deaths of Kara and Jessica. For unknown reasons, Jessup Carter would end up taking his own life inside of his jail cell just prior to Yust's trial beginning. So, remember when I told you to put a pin in the comment that his brother never had anything to do with the deaths? Well, that all changed at Yust's trial.
Himself, who at one point placed the blame on his deceased half-brother Jessup Carter, who died behind bars in 2018 while he was being held on an arson charge.
And you put your hands around Kara's neck and you
and you took her last breath, you watched her eyes roll back in her head, and you stared at her as that happened.
Yust takes the stand in his own trial and claims that his brother was the person responsible for the deaths of Kara and Jessica, and further goes on to say that that's the reason that he took his own life. Can you fucking imagine? You pin this on your brother, on your dead brother. You pin this on your dead brother who is not alive to defend himself, instead of just being a man and just taking responsibility for being a shit fucking person in life. Wow. That, I can't believe it. I'm just still shocked that you would blame all this on your dead brother. Meanwhile, why would your brother need to get rid of these girls? He wasn't sleeping with those girls. He had a girlfriend that he was very much in love with, and they had children together. What does he care about your girlfriends that don't love you because you're a loser? Just saying. In the end, the jury thankfully saw through his bullshit and sentenced Yust to a maximum of 45 years in prison. 15 years for the involuntary manslaughter of Kara Kopetsky, and life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years for the second degree of Jessica Runyons. All right, guys, if you're still here, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, and I appreciate you so, so, so very much. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you haven't yet. You feel so inclined to, because it really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. And until next time, stay safe out there.